Welcome everyone to our series of talks on what we've learned in project management, the European Spallation Source and in-kind contributions to an ERIC. Today we will give an introduction about project, program and portfolio. Before I start, I just wanted to say a few words about myself. I am originally from Brazil. I live in Germany. In Brazil, I did a bachelor in physics, and in Germany, I did a master in materials engineering and a PhD here in the Forschungszentrum Jülich, and my professor was from the University of Liège, so my PhD is technically from Belgium. Just to let you know, if you're not from Germany, I will always say where we are is Forschungszentrum Jülich. Translating is Research Center Jülich, but I will always say in German. Okay, so I did my PhD here. The PhD took place between 2008 and 2013. And in this period, I also had a very best results, not only some papers, but also I had 2 kids. After that, I had decided actually to change careers, and I wanted to go into project management. So actually what I did when I finished my PhD, I went to my father and I said, okay, actually what I want to do, and then I described it. He looked at me and he said, oh, this is project management. And I said, yay, I will research about that. And then I did some certification, I did some studies. I started working with spin-offs and startups. And in 2016, so 10 years ago, I came back to the Forschungszentrum and I started working with the projects to the ESS, the European Spallation Source. Good, but enough about me. Let's take a look at what we will do today. So the mission overview, should you choose to accept. So you can see throughout the talk that you will know a lot about me, and maybe you can see my preferred kind of movie if you understand the sentence. I have to say my boss did not understand the sentence, but if you know the movies, you will understand it. We will first have a theory part, which will be introduction to project management. We will look into project, portfolio, and program. We will see types of organization, project management methodologies, and project management frameworks. And then after that, we will go to a more practical part where I will talk about ESS, about ESFRIs, about in-kind contributions, about the Forschungszentrum contributions to the ESS, and in the end, I will finish with an overview of the next steps, and I will also share some literature. As you can see, there are some books also here if you would like to look at it. Okay, so what is a project? Before I start, does anybody know here the difference between project, program, and portfolio? No. Okay, that's good. Great. I'm very happy that then we are starting from the beginning. Here on the slide on top, I put some definitions. I will talk a lot on abbreviations, and sometimes if you get a bit lost, just please ask me about it. A project, according to the PMBOK is the project management body of knowledge, which comes from the PMI, which is the Project Management Institute, and which gives the certification that is called PMP, which is Project Management Professional. So a project is a temporary endeavor undertaking to create a unique product, service, or result. According to Prince 2, a project is a temporary organization that is created for the purpose of delivering one or more business products according to an agreed business case. But my preferred definition of a project comes from this website called mymanagementguide.com. And a project is a temporary, unique, and progressive attempt or endeavor to produce a tangible or intangible result, a unique product, service, benefit, competitive advantage, etc. It usually includes a series of interrelated tasks that are planned for execution over a fixed period of time, and within certain requirements and limitations such as cost, quality, performance, etc. So, I will come back to this text. Based on this definition, if I would tell you that there is a triple constraint to a project, which, well, in project management, we do love our triangles, and you will see lots of triangles in this presentation. So if we would have a triangle like this, that is a triple constraint, could you see, or could you guess from that definition, what would be written in the question marks of these triangles? Let me go back here.
One of them is cost.
Cost, great. Time.
Quality.
Quality is not really the constraint, but it's the result. It's in the middle of the triangle. Anyone? So if you're online also, you can just unmute and you can just talk. Don't worry about it.
Scope, maybe?
Scope. Great. Perfect. So these 4 question marks are cost, time, and scope. And in the middle, there is quality. One visualization that I prefer, actually, to make it a bit clear what this actually means is this. So if you want something that is cheap and good, you will sacrifice on the opposite, which is fast. So things will be slow. If you want something that is cheap and fast, you will sacrifice on the scope. So whatever you're doing, there will be low quality. If you want something that is good and fast, it will be the opposite of cheap? Expensive. Perfect. So what do you think should be in the middle there? Something that is cheap, good, and fast.
Compromise.
Compromise, then you're compromising on the scope or the cost or the budget or the time, right, the schedule.
Optimum?
Optimum. That it would be great if you could do something good, cheap, and fast.
Maybe something like impossible or miracle.
Impossible! Perfect, thank you. So since impossible doesn't fit so well, I wrote in your dreams. Okay, good. So there is another way that you also find the representation, which is cost, scope, time, but also quality, resources, and risks. My preferred is actually to the triangle. Well, I love the triangles. You will see that. So I prefer to focus on the triple constraint. But in projects that are so complex, like the ones that we are doing here, which are the projects like ESS or projects for ESS, or any other project related to large-scale research infrastructure, there is something else that it's extremely important and you really need to consider. So basically, I get the triple constraint and I actually transform this into a prism. And you also know now my preference in music. You should add the variety of stakeholders. Does anybody know what are stakeholders? Okay.
People, okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
People who have interest in the outcome of the project.
Very good. Okay, perfect. So a person, group, or organization who affects or is affected by the project. So very, very important. A stakeholder is not something to hold a stake. And trust me, there are many people that already said that to me, and this is not so stupid, to be totally honest. If no one ever heard about it and you say stakeholder, it's okay to think this, but there is a difference between a stake and stake. And my English is not perfect, but you will read the difference, right? Okay, so now again, and this is something that this year will be embedded in your brain. What are the question marks?
What we had before?
Yes, so go ahead. Go ahead. Cost, time,
Scope,
quality, stakeholder. Good. So now let's go ahead and talk what is project management. Does anybody know what is project management? You can say something obvious like it's the management of a project. It's okay, don't worry. No, not in German, in English.
So it's replacing the randomness due to error.
Replacing the randomness due to error. Okay, this is one very complex way of seeing that. Let's go a bit more simple. So according to the PMBOK, project management is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet the project requirements. According to Prince 2, and there is a slight difference here, it would be very important to pay attention to that. Project management is the planning, delegating, monitoring, and controlling of all aspects of the project, and the motivation of those involved to achieve the project objectives within the expected performance targets for time, cost, quality, scope, benefits, and risks. So what I wanted to show here is that there is a difference between management and leadership. So the first definition focus on management, focus on using tools to manage the project. The definition from Prince 2 actually focus on leadership. I will quickly just show you this slide. I will not focus on this right now because this is something that we will see during the talk that we will do about the project manager roles and responsibilities. So there is a difference that management is more task-orientated, leadership is more people-orientated, and all the other topics here. So management is about doing things right, and leadership about doing the right things, and so on, so on, so on. But we will go into the details of this during the talk. I think the almost last talk from this year. Good. So now, project, program, or portfolio. I will just give also these definitions here. So, program is a temporary, flexible organization structure designed to coordinate, direct, and oversee the implementation of a set of related projects and activities in order to deliver benefits of strategic importance that would be unachievable if the projects were managed individually. Portfolio is defined as the totality of an organization's investment in the changes required to achieve strategic outcomes. The aim of creating a portfolio is to achieve the organization's strategic aims and goals. So, with this definition, you for sure know the difference between project, program, and portfolio, right? No. People are shaking their head, no. Yes, I agree. So I try to summarize here, and of course, I will use a triangle. So, project. The day-to-day of project is the day-to-day of the project, right? If the focus is on deliverables, and you're managing the triple constraint. So your focus is on the triple constraint. A program is composed of 2 or more projects. The focus is on the benefits, and you're managing the dependencies between these projects, and you're also managing several stakeholders. And the portfolio is about strategic decisions. The focus is on outcomes, managing organizational goals, and high-level resources. So, if you just started thinking about project management, you get a book and you open. Sometimes it looks like Greek. It looks like a brand new vocabulary, and you don't really know where to start and where to go. So that's why we want to focus on lessons learned. We want to, in the end, talk about what can be a project, a program, a portfolio, after you saw examples of it. So don't worry if you didn't understand completely. After the examples, I hope you will understand. Okay, so these projects, they are managed in a company. A company can be a functional matrix or project-oriented organization. Does anybody know the difference? No. Okay, great. I feel useful. Good. So if you look into the organizational continuum, you would have a more inline management organization, so this functional organization, where you have a boss, a boss's boss, a boss's boss's boss, or the other way around. If you're a big boss, you have employees, the employees have employees, and so on, so on, so on. So it's this inline organization, right? If you have a completely project-oriented organization, so this other extreme, you have basically just projects and people just go from one project to the other. What you usually have is something that is called a matrix organization. So the matrix organization can be very weak or very strong or balanced. Just to give you an example of what a matrix organization would look like, if you would have project A, B, and C, and you need people from, let's say, science, engineering, technical, IT, and administration, and these projects are composed from different people from these different departments or institutes, they have their own inline manager, right? And the project manager then manages these people related to the project. So the project manager's role, authority, resource availability, and power over budget will depend strongly if the organization is a strong matrix or a weak matrix. So I think most of the people, at least in the room, are from Forschungszentrum Jülich. I don't know the people online. So do you think that the Forschungszentrum Jülich is more a functional organization, a project-oriented organization, or a matrix organization?
Functional.
Functional. Everybody agrees? So you can imagine the challenges that you would have if you want to manage a project in the Forschungszentrum. Okay, so now let's just review a bit of the project management methodologies. Does anybody know any project management methodology? Oh my gosh, I love this. Perfect.
We don't know the name.
You don't know the name. That's okay. That's okay. So I will not go into the details in this table, but the main methodologies are from the US, from the project management. Oh, my slide is not. Let me see if I can do a pointer. Okay. So the Project Management Institute from the US gives a certification called Project Management Professional, and other certifications also. It's from the US, and this is the book, the PMBOK, if you want to look in the book later. And the certification, usually you can keep it for 3 to 5 years. After that, you have to renew it. Prince 2 is from the UK. Then you have foundation, practitioner, professional, and depending on which one you're doing, the exam takes 1 hour up to days. And this is important. To do the certification, sometimes you need to prove if you have project management experience or not. You also have this wonderful book here if you want to take a look at it, and the accreditation, you can keep it for a lifetime. There is also the IPMA, which is from Europe. There are several levels, and I do not know so much about it, but the certification you can either keep for a lifetime or, depending on the certification, only 5 years. Okay, so my focus is usually on the PMBOK, but there are some principles that I like very much from Prince 2. So these are the new books from PMBOK, so the Project Management Body of Knowledge, and from Prince 2, Managing Successful Projects with Prince 2. Mine is extremely old, so you can see how old I am or how long I've been doing this. And just to give you an overview of Prince 2, because the focus here will not be Prince 2. You have all these phases of the project, you have the processes, the themes, the principles, and the project environment. What I like about Prince 2 are the principles, and this is extremely important, and I think anyone who wants to manage a successful project should have these principles in their project. So the principles of Prince 2 are continue business justification, learn from experience, and this is something that I will repeat every single talk. Expert judgment. This is the input for almost everything that you will do. So learn from experience. Very, very, very important is define roles and responsibilities. And then it's good also to manage by stage. So for example, when I was doing project management with startups and spin-offs, I would always put a milestone that is called decision to proceed. So should you go ahead or no? So let's get to this stage first, and then let's see what you will move, how you will move forward. Manage by exceptions, focus on products, and very, very important also, you have to see where you are doing this project. What is the entire environment of this project? So the Prince2 methodology also offers other certificates for programs, portfolio, or for everything together. Again, I will not go into the details of that. I have books here for so Prince2, MSP, and P3O. And if you want, you can also take a look during the coffee break. Okay, the focus of this entire year will be on this table. You cannot read this here, do not worry about it. But this table is actually from the project management body of knowledge. I tried to shift that table in a way that is a bit more readable. So throughout the year, we will go through all this process. Sorry, just a second. All these process groups and knowledge areas, yes. All these process groups, so initiating a project, planning, executing, monitoring, and controlling, and closing, and all these knowledge areas. And you can see that planning has a lot of points here. So these points, I think there are a total of 49, if I'm not mistaken. And we will look into all of that this year. Okay, so now, project management frameworks. Does anybody know what are project management frameworks? Good. Okay, so project management frameworks are basically how you will manage the project. The very first project management framework is called... Yeah. Yeah. It's called Waterfall. Perfect. So Waterfall is something that you have start, middle, end. So for example, you have requirements, design, development, testing, deployment, review, and launch, and they all happen after each other. It's linear, it's predictive. Nowadays, there are other forms, other frameworks, and another framework is the Agile. So it's interactive and adaptive. So basically, you do this entire process that we talked before, but you have the review feedback into the design. You have this circular way of doing things. That's why it's called more Agile. A branch of Agile is called Scrum. So basically you have sprints, you're doing this over and over again, and these periods are also very, very short. So basically each sprint has more or less 4 weeks, depending on the project. And you can also have something called Kanban. Kanban is basically a visual flow. Another fun fact about me, I actually love to do dinner parties. So I just gave you an example of what my planning for a dinner party would look like. I'm not crazy. I do not plan my dinner parties on Kanban. No, I already did that. But, not most of the times, just sometimes. So for example, here would be the tasks that are already completed. So check availability of guests. And then in progress, I have scheduled the date, send invitations, and then the tasks that are still not started, I have to confirm, I have to do shopping, I have to tell people who will bring what, etc., etc. I should have some fun. And I hate the cleaning, but it's there. Are all the tasks that I would have to do. So this is the Kanban way, this visual workflow. Okay, so this is already the end of the theory part. So what have you learned so far? Definitions. You learned the definitions of project, program, portfolio, and you know now, hopefully, what is project management. You learned about the triple constraint and the 6 control variables. You learn what are stakeholders. You learned what are the types of organization, which are functional, matrix, and projectized. You learned the project management methodologies. You learned about the knowledge areas and process groups of the PMBOK. And you learned about project management frameworks, which are Waterfall, Agile, Scrum, Kanban. There are others, but these are the only ones that I'm focusing here. Good, so now let's go to the practical part of it, or the fun part of it. No, everything is fun. Yes. Yes.
You have now presented several frameworks and several ways, and at the end you have to decide for one which you use in your project. Or do you always use a mixture of all of them, or how do you use these?
That's what we will see now, with the real life examples. Because one thing is everything in theory, right? And another is how do you actually use things in real life. So we will go through the examples, and then you will tell me which one you think is best. So have to remember. Before I start, so for the people who don't know the Forschungszentrum, because there were so many people who also registered for that, and they are from Brazil, so I'm talking more to the people online. We are now sitting here in the Forschungszentrum Jülich, and in the end you will know those words. Forschung is research, Zentrum is center, and the abbreviation is FZJ, so FZJ, right? Good, so in the Forschungszentrum we have 15 institutes, we have 18 branches in Germany and abroad. The site here is quite big and fits 238 football pitches. Okay. In 2024, the budget of the Forschungszentrum was almost 1 billion euros. We have 3 research priorities, which is information, energy, and bioeconomy. We in 2024, we had 115 new patents and 2,039 publications. Good. Does anybody know how the Forschungszentrum was born?
So it was born in the 1950s as one of the 3 nuclear energy research centers of the young Federal Republic of Germany. Exactly.
So the Forschungszentrum was born in 1956 as the Kernforschungsanlage Jülich, so KFA. It's the Nuclear Research Center. The reactors were started in 1962. The Merlin reactor was decommissioned in 1985, and the Dido reactor was decommissioned in 2006. So the birth of the Forschungszentrum was actually neutrons. Yay! After the Dido reactor was decommissioned, the Forschungszentrum came up with a new business case, which is to have the best instrument at the best sources. So many instruments were delivered then to Munich, here FM2, Grenoble. We also built some new instruments and are bringing to SNS and new instruments to ESS. So basically, Forschungszentrum constructs and operates world-class instruments at the world's leading neutron sources. Okay, so what can you do with neutrons, right? What are neutrons good for? Basically, a very simple example is if you do imaging. So if you have, for example, this sculpture from the 14th, 15th century, and you do an X-ray, you pretty much see only metal. But if you do imaging with neutrons, you would actually see the organic matter inside the sculpture because neutrons are kind of blind for metal. So you can see the organic matter. This is just a very simple example to show the differences between X-ray neutrons. You can also use electron microscopy. And all these techniques, they are actually complementary to each other. So what you can do with neutrons is, as I just showed, you can do this imaging, radiography, tomography. You can do texture diffractometry, reflectometry, small angle scattering, diffractometry, nuclear and particle physics if you're looking into the length scale. If you're looking into the time scale, you can have time-resolved radiography, diffractor, blah, blah, spin echo, backscattering, time of flight, high energy scattering, and so on, so on. So this talk is focused on project management. If you want to learn more about neutrons, I will send you to other people, but just to have an idea on what we are doing and why we are doing this, right? So neutron can be produced by several ways. You can have nuclear fission, which was, as we showed in the reactors. You can have this being produced as by spallation, where you have an accelerator of proton shooting into a target and then having an spallation reaction and producing neutrons. Or you can also have proton capture, where you have lower energy protons being captured by a target and then releasing a neutron in the reaction. Okay, so there are these several ways. We had here in the Forschung Centrum nuclear, but let's now talking about spallation. So we will talk about spallation because we will talk about the European Spallation Source. The European Spallation Source is being constructed in Sweden, Lund. I will talk about this later. And the Forschung Centrum contributions to the ESS started actually in the 80s, when we already did a feasibility study for a target wheel. So if you are in the Forschung Centrum, one of these days I can also take you there. You can already still see this target wheel. It's still there on display since the 80s. We also participate on the 90s into the ESS technical design. In the 2000s, we were actually hosting the management team, and the science director was Dieter Richter. And from 2010 to 2014, we were holding also the design update phase, managing the 7 German partners. Germany was contributing for over half of the design update phase. So the ESS. The ESS is being constructed in Lund, Sweden, with the host countries Sweden and Denmark. So the data center is in Denmark. It will have a 2 megawatt proton accelerator hitting a tungsten target and spreading neutrons into 15 instruments. The first beam on target is predicted for this year, and end of construction will be in 2027. The groundbreaking was in 2014, and just after a few years, you could see a lot of progress already there. In 2021, the offices were built, and you could already move into the office. In 2024, ESS received renowned people like Macron and the King of Sweden. So the King of Sweden is actually there very often. He's very interested in science and the ESS. And just last year, there was progress in the accelerator, and they actually achieved a milestone that they had, a very important milestone called beam on dump. The ESS is a pan-European project with 13 founding members, 40 European partners, and more than 120 collaborating institutions. And it is an ERIC. Does anybody here know what it is, an ERIC? Except for your work colleague called ERIC.
European Research Infrastructure Collaboration.
Almost.
Consortium?
Consortium. Yes. Oops, I forgot to write consortium there. So European Research Infrastructure Consortium. It's an ERIC. So it's a legal form, basically. I will not go through the whole description here, but it's a legal form that has several advantages, and one of the advantages is also exemptions from VAT. It may adopt its own procurement procedures, and it's recognized. So there are several ERICs already founded. Before you become an ERIC, you have to actually enter the European Strategy Forum on Research Infrastructure roadmap. So the ESFRI was established in 2002. And basically, if you want to construct any infrastructure in Europe, you should first enter the wonderful roadmaps. After I started working with the ESS, I got very curious because this large-scale research infrastructures, they propose the construction a bit fast, like this, of the facility, and they are quite optimistic also with budget. So I did a research. I actually got all these roadmaps, and I got 11 research infrastructures. And I chose them based on the investment cost being above 400 million and on they all being single-sited. And what I evaluated was the operation start and the construction costs. Okay, so this is a milestone trend analysis. Do you know what this means? Okay. So basically, for all these research infrastructures, they reported in 2016 when they intended to start operation, right? And then they reported again in the next roadmap and in the next roadmap, in the next roadmap. So technically, if they would be correct, if they would be right, this would be a straight line and would hit this line here. If you focus, for example, on ESS, ESS is this light blue one. The ESS wanted to start operation in 2006. They said that they wanted to start operation in 2017. In 2008, they said, maybe 2019. And then in 2016, so two years before they actually wanted to start operation, they said, maybe 25. And then actually in the last report, they put it to 2027. So you can see that this milestone trend analysis, it is a tool used in project management for you to see if your project is on track or not. And unfortunately, this is kind of normal. Now let's take a look into the investment costs. Here I did the same. I did the analysis on what they said in 2016 and what they said on the ESFRI roadmap in 2020. And you can see ESS here in the beginning wanted to actually have as construction costs around 1 billion euros. They come up with a very good plan to have 1.8 billion euros. But now it's like a bit over billion. I said billion, right? I said billion, okay, yes. So now they are a bit above, let's say, 3 billion euros. And then a friend of mine, actually, he said, Tanya, you know, when you want to do projects, you just do pi. And I said, okay, pi. And I thought about pi, right? And then he was like, no, you just multiply by pi. I said, okay, so if you think about the construction cost of ESS, you then have that they went from 1 billion to above 3 billion. This is quite a good approximation. But the main point is that if you know enough about project management, you just hopefully would not get to this point. Okay. So the ESS has the host countries, which are the biggest contributors, so to Sweden and Denmark. And then the largest contributor after the host countries is Germany. Germany has a contribution that is done by cash and in-kind. The in-kind contributions are fulfilled by the Forschungszentrum Jülich, TUM, the Technical University in Munich, and Hereo. And it amounts to 74.4 million euros in 2013 prices. And all these three partners, they also have a long-standing tradition on collaborating on instrumentation, and therefore the focus of Germany is actually instrumentation. So 7 out of the 15 instruments that are being constructed in Sweden, Germany is involved in them, and the Forschungszentrum is involved in 4 of those instruments. So this is an overview of the projects that we have here in the Forschungszentrum. The timeline is between 2015 and 2027. The budget is 51.1 million euros plus another 6 million for third-party funding, and it's divided into target instruments and critical components. We have faced several challenges with these projects here in the Forschungszentrum. One of the challenge was the external interfaces. So we are the primary point of contact to BMFTR. We have partners with the instruments, so LLB, PSI, CNR. And negotiations for the contracts were also done with Hedeo and TUM, the other partners. We also have a lot of internal interfaces, so we have to deal with, or not we have to deal, we have collaboration with the engineering department. We are also dealing with third-party funding, logistics, procurement, HR, finance, legal, in particular legal, because we had a lot of issues negotiating our contracts. We had issues with liabilities, VAT, warranties, and so on, so on. So in order to actually manage all this internally in the Forschungszentrum, we have established a program management office, which is embedded in the Instruments for ESS department of the JCNS. And I will not go into the details of this right now, but we have developed a very nice structure to manage this project, and we will go into how this was done actually in the other talks. So our focus here is on instrumentation.
Another question in between. Can you just go back one slide?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the program management.
Yes.
Office.
Yes.
So at the beginning in your triangle, the program consists of 2 or more projects. What are the projects below?
Those.
The individual instruments.
The individual instruments, exactly. Good question. Okay, so we are focusing on instrumentation. We are involved in DREAM, SCADI, MAGIC, and T-REX. And I would just talk a little bit about one of these projects. So if you look into T-REX, just schematics, you have neutrons coming from the moderator and going all the way to the sample cave, to the sample here in the sample cave. You have a bunch of components here in the middle. And it looks simple, right? Maybe, maybe not. So what you do is basically that you establish a systems engineering approach. So what you want to do is that you want to have first a functional review, then a preliminary design review, then a critical design review, a test readiness review, a systems acceptance review, and an operation readiness review. Which project management framework does that look like? Waterfall. So basically, if you want to construct something that is this complex, you could not do it agile, right? Agile is something that you use if you want to do a new software, not if you want to construct an instrument. Another technique. Okay, because, give me 1 second, 2 slides, and then I will reply your question why. Okay. So another technique that is also used is this stage gate approach, which you have milestones, which with the projects of ESS are called toll gates, where you sit down, you say, okay, you finished the PDR, the preliminary design review. You have a committee of people reviewing this and say, okay, this is correct, go to the next stage. This is called stage gate. Now, actually, that schematics that I showed you there, in reality, it looks a little bit more like this. So imagine that you have all these components on an instrument, and you want to do this stage gate approach. Is this possible?
If the different components are on a different level, you cannot reach the goal at the same time.
Exactly. So if you want to do the preliminary design review of the entire instrument, you have to have finished every single preliminary design of every single component. This is not possible. So that's why you divide this project into sub-projects, and you will do this review for each component. Sorry, Ulrich, what was your question again? The why of?
Why this agile is not possible?
Okay, so imagine you are getting this, let's say this part here. So you have the vessel, right? So this tiny part here that is inside the cave, actually it's not so tiny. It looks like this, right? So this is the vessel, and this is the biggest vacuum pump that we have for the vessel. Imagine that you want to do agile. So you produce a vessel. You say, oops, there was something wrong. Let's produce again. How much money would that cost?
1.5 million.
1.5 million. Yeah.
You told us the difference between waterfall and agile is that if you do it agile, the review affects the design.
Yes.
Why do you have a review if the review does not affect the design? The review can say it's everything okay, or we stop the project if it does not affect the design.
You are
agile.
You are partially right there, yes. So you will have a review to see if you actually produced a design that you can go into manufacturing. Usually, you don't get the results of this review and go back and redo the entire design, because this would take a very long time. There are things that take 1-2 years to design, even, depending on your resources. So you could have input, but when you go into manufacturing of this is absolutely impossible. So basically, the review is there to say, okay, are you fulfilling all the specs? Can you really manufacture this? Will this be compliant with all our needs, all our requirements? So you have a system requirements document also. So basically, you're just saying this. You will not redo the entire design because this takes too long.
So in Waterfall, you're saying basically that every step takes a lot longer, and Agile is more iterative with like faster cycles?
It depends on the project. So for this project, we are constructing an instrument, right? So this takes a very long time. It's taking us around 12 years to construct an instrument. If, I don't know, my PhD, right? If I'm doing my PhD, is technically 3 years. And I went and I did some measurements in a sample, and the measurements were not correct. I have to redo the samples. I have to redo the measurements, right? So the time scale depends on the time scale of the project, depends on the complexity of the project, and depends on what is the scope, what is the outcome, what is the product that you're generating from the project. Yeah.
There is a remark from Chris, and I think this is correct, that we're doing some kind of agile workflow for the smaller components in the project. So I think in many projects that are classical water flow on the top level, there is some agile aspect on the bottom level, and I think the modern project management is going to some kind of mixture of agile and water flow. On top level water flow, and bottom for smaller pieces agile. But I think the easy understanding why water flow is something necessary is to look for a bridge. If you would start with the lane and you put it somewhere and you don't have the underneath construction stuff done, it will be quite interesting how you, when the first cars start to use this, because one component of Agile is always that you deliver the not finished product to the customer.
Yes.
Tanya, in our case, our design review is also split in 3 phases: preliminary, design review, intermediate design review, and final design review or critical design review. So if necessary, we could go back and improve our design.
That is true. So Chris is actually, I think, maybe 5 talks ahead. Where I will show that we use pretty much everything, but the main point for an instrument construction has to be some kind of waterfall. And for example, you also can add there, you do not have to follow this direct systems engineering. You can add there feasibility studies, right? So feasibility studies would be also a part of the design that you then go back. I would not call a feasibility study for a component actually agile, but maybe I'm wrong. So again, I'm not the queen of truth here, and I really, really appreciate input. And you guys all have Google, so search for things, correct me, let me know if I can learn something. But yes, in a few talks, I will say, okay, we actually use Waterfall, and some things we use Kanban also, but it's in the very, very lower levels. Yeah.
I have a question. So if you divide a project into sub-projects, how you handle the interfaces, which needs to be fixed so that all the components mesh together?
Wait, you are 3 talks ahead. Okay. With care, I would say. Now, so you have interface documents, you have system requirements documents, you have integration documents. What I didn't show on this, let me just go back for a second. What I didn't show here is that the systems engineering approach has also a V-shaped diagram, where to each step you have a verification. How, if you will produce this, or if you are in this part, how you will verify that the final component actually achieved that. But I will show this V diagram for systems engineering in a few talks from now. But this is an excellent question, and it's one of the main issues. So in particular with an instrument that we are constructing, where some things are coming from, as you see, some components are coming from Forschungszentrum, some components are coming from Italy, from CNR, some things ESS is doing. It is I do not know how to say this diplomatically. It is a nightmare. And you need much more resources when you have this amount of interfaces. So if you are managing yourself all your interfaces, you will spend much less time and money than if you have these interfaces from different projects coming from even different cultures. But I would say with a lot of work. And you have to have all these documents and all the verifications that need to be done. Okay, more questions about this?
I would ask if one lesson learned would be that minimizing the interfaces for a project is quite useful.
This you're already on monitoring and controlling and executing the project. So yes, you guys are great. You guys are several talks ahead, but really, really good questions. And I will also keep all these questions to make sure that I address them in the next talks. Good. So now it comes the essential part. What is the difference between project, program, and portfolio? T-Rex. Let me see if I find T-Rex here. Oh. Is T-Rex a project, a program, or a portfolio? A project. Let's see, I'm not saying that you're right.
So I think we have already subdivided this into separate.
Wait, let's do, no, wait, I want to do something interactive that we can also have the people saying online. So we will talk about T-Rex, ESS, the dinner party, and a PhD, okay? So think about it. Which one do you think it's a project? Which one do you think it's a portfolio? Which one do you think it's a program? So just as a help, I put here again the triangle, because I love triangles, with the definitions of our project, program, and portfolio. So if you are online, we will do a questionnaire now, and you press 1 if you think it's a project, 2 if you think it's a program, and 3 if you think it's a portfolio. So, T-Rex. Program. Okay, here we have project and program.
Well, you already showed us that's a project.
Really?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Program office, you handled several projects like T-Rex.
Really? Okay. Be careful, because I chose very carefully what I would say and not say. It is record. I know I said that, but be careful with the things that I didn't say. So, online?
Up to now, not 9 answers. It's still changing now, it's 12.
A majority of the answers are what?
Most are project.
Most are project, okay.
60%.
60% only. The others are what?
Program.
Program, okay.
8, I guess it's, I don't.
1%.
For portfolio.
Portfolio, wow, okay.
Still moving because of the.
Okay.
Curve is still rising.
It's okay, good. So, a second. Let's say that a majority went for project, some for program, some for portfolio. Okay, the dinner party.
Program.
Project.
Stefan, can you do a new questionnaire?
Yeah, just.
Okay. Dinner party? Project? Huh?
Program.
Program, okay. Who thinks it's a program? Until, who thinks it's a project? Okay. Stefan, online? It's going, okay.
Just
And?
Yeah, just. Not 70% for project.
Project.
Option 1, because I was not so fast.
Okay. So project, fine. What else do we have? PhD. Program.
Project. Depending how many projects we have in the PhD.
That's a very productive project. Okay. Oops. Okay. No. Aha!
40% towards the program.
40% towards the program. Okay, interesting. So people put more PhD between project and program. T-Rex was also right between project and program. ESS. Portfolio.
As I don't understand the portfolio, I would put it into program.
Stefan, did you do the next questionnaire? Okay. I will wait a bit. So, can you say why program?
Well, there are many projects, a lot of projects. So Forschungszentrum, I would assume it's a portfolio. ESS, it might be a portfolio, but you could also just look at all the sub projects, individual projects, and then look at the program. So I'm not so sure.
It's still moving.
It's still moving, okay.
It's only moving.
So who here thinks it's a project? Who thinks it's a program?
Half.
Who thinks it's a portfolio? Okay.
So we have so far 25% for project,
Uh-huh.
17 for program, and the rest close to 60 for
Portfolio. Okay. So now we will go to the things that I didn't say. What is the ESS?
Research infrastructure.
It's a research infrastructure. What is a research infrastructure?
Project.
So if you would say that the Forschungszentrum is a research facility, would you say that the Forschungszentrum is a project, a program, or a portfolio?
Forschung. There's a slight difference between FZJ and ESS, I would say.
What is the difference?
Well, in the FZJ you have multiple completely independent projects or works being done here. Medicine, informatics, physics, whatever.
Okay, so let's go back. Okay. A project has a start and an end in the triple constraint. A project has a fixed budget. A project has a fixed scope. Is the Forschungszentrum any of those things?
No.
Is ESS any of those things? No.
Well, it depends. Are you building it? Then yes.
Ah, thank you. Thank you. So, the ESS construction is a something. Not the ESS. The ESS is a facility, right? So, yes, PhD. Sorry for the people who think it's program, but I would put this into project. The dinner party, it depends if I do this once or recurring tasks, then we should think about it. But T-Rex and ESS are nothing. They are something that we would call business as usual. The phase of ESS where you're doing construction, then it might be a project, a program, or a portfolio. But the phase of T-Rex that you're doing construction is a project. Okay, good. So now let's talk a little bit more about ESS. From your perspective, you're saying that ESS is a program. Okay, so it's looking into the benefits, manage dependence, and stakeholders. But who is doing that?
You?
I am not the Director General of ESS. So let's look into the perspective. So from the perspective of the ESS Council, from the perspective of the ESS Director General, from the perspective of the Ministry, from the perspective of our Program Management Office, and from your perspective. They can be different.
So, from the point of view of the Director General, it should be a portfolio. He's managing resources and organizations.
From the point of view of the Director General, he needs to deliver the end of the construction of ESS. A portfolio has no end.
But he's also running ESS at the end.
The next Director General will run ESS. So he has two hats. The next person needs to bring ESS into operation, needs to finish construction, and needs to run it. So there are two hats there.
So you think of his age?
Of?
Of his age?
No. Okay, sorry.
For me, the Director General is a
No,
position.
the position of Director General is temporary. They always have a mandate, I think.
Followed by a next one. So the position will exist for the next 40, 50 years.
The position of Director General exists, yes, that's true. You're right. So the position will be managing the end of the construction, and the position will still be there and managing the operation of the facility. You're right. But it's extremely important, and we will talk about this also in the future, that these positions are temporary, because you need different sets of skills to actually get the funds to construct something like that. It's like over 3 billion euros, right? You need to have diplomatic skills. Then you need another set of skills to actually deal with the construction, and another to deal with operations. So imagine that you're sitting in the ministry and you're deciding where you will give money to. If you're sitting in the ministry, you're seeing ESS, which means that you have a portfolio. Yes, you have a portfolio.
Right. The ministry is a portfolio, but ESS is an individual project. Portfolio.
Not ESS, the ESS construction. The ESS construction. So the ESS construction can actually be considered as a project from the point of view of a person who is dealing with something that has start and end, has a budget, has a scope. Okay? Good. Great. Any further questions on this topic? And you can see, so this will be the emphasis on the next talks, So today was a lot of information, in particular to give you a background on what we are doing, right? That we're in the Forschungszentrum, that we're dealing with neutrons, that we are dealing with ESS, that we are dealing with instruments and so on. But in the next talks, it will always be like, okay, this is the theory, but how do things work in reality? Yeah.
Can you give an example of a program?
Yes. So we have the Program Management Office that is composed by Andreas in the Senior Program Manager position, me as Program Manager, Ulrike as Controller, and Stefan as Quality Manager. And you have to see that these offices, they might have different roles and responsibilities in different projects or programs or portfolios. So you can have something that is in parallel to everything, but one thing that we decided to do, this program office embedded in the structure of the Instruments for ESS department is because also the second row of Andreas is the head of department, and he has direct inline management to the head of projects.
This means any construction is a project individually.
If it fits the triple constraint, it's usually a project,
And if it's not, then it's something outside of whatever.
Yes.
Or I change the book.
Something like that, yes.
In all your definitions, there was written project must be unique.
Yes.
So if you build 3 similar instruments, is the third instrument still a project?
Okay, so there is something called BAU. So business as usual. This is business as usual. What I try to bring a lot here is that we have these project management books, methodologies, and etc. But they were developed for a normal company. A normal company that has either inline management or has project-oriented structure and so on. These do not apply directly to research infrastructures. And that's why I will always put, okay, this is the theory, but this is how things are done actually in reality when you're dealing with large-scale research infrastructures. So when you do a project inside a company, let's say building a new building here in the Forschungszentrum. So the Forschungszentrum is responsible for that. They will deliver this new building, right? And then when this new building is functional, it will go to business as usual. And then you will build the next building. Even if the building is similar, it is a new project, right? Because it has a new, it might be, the exact same building, but still there is a start and an end, there is a cost, and there is the scope of delivering that building. As soon as it's functional, it goes to business as usual.
But I think the question is right, because in industry, many processes are run with project management tools that are no projects. Formally, because the uniqueness that is in the standard books as a criterion for a project is not present there. So if a company is building buildings, it's not unique, but I think they will still manage as project because the methodology is good.
Yeah, but each building is a project. And using project management tools, yes, everything that has a start, an end, a budget, and a scope is a project, literally. But using project management tools in general is great. I mean, I don't need to use Kanban for my dinner party, right? But I could, if I want. But it's extremely important when you have the transition from project to operation, you have the mentality to operation. The set of skills that you need for the construction of the ESS, for the project management of the construction of ESS, for example, is very, very different than operating a facility. You can use project management tools, but there are some things that you shouldn't. You shouldn't, for example, plan your resources using a project management tool because you need a steady state operation, right? Yeah.
What reason could you have to bundle your projects into a program and not just have a portfolio? Is it because of the interdependencies, or I mean, it's a range, you can decide to have a program or to have not a program.
Mm-hmm. So you're right. So portfolio can be also done of projects or projects per program. So the definition, the book definition of everything here, if I would see extremely literally, actually our projects do not form a program. Because they have this, the projects need to have this interdependency, right? We made it a program because we need to prioritize resources, because we can learn from another. So if we are building a certain component for an instrument, maybe the other instrument has a similar component, and so on. So we made it into a program, actually. But technically, in the strict sense of a normal company, this would actually be just a bunch of different projects. So you need to adapt, and this is why I like these principles from Prince 2, to adapt to the environment. And we had to adapt a lot dealing with large-scale research infrastructure, with stakeholders that go from, technicians to ministry. It's none of these methodologies fits to the latter. So you need to adapt. But yes, you can have a portfolio of several projects. More questions? No more questions?
So whom do you address in this role of stakeholders in the case of a solar? The feeling I have a wrong impression.
Okay, so let's give an example directly here. So let's say T-Rex, right? So T-Rex, you're managing the day-to-day. So Chris is still online, right? So Chris is the project manager. He's addressing the day-to-day things, right? When we are here in the program management office, we need to address the dependencies that T-Rex has, also with ESS and so on. And these stakeholders, of course, you're dealing with stakeholders all the time, right? The people who are building the project, they are stakeholders. So everyone involved is a stakeholder. But you're dealing in a sense with, let's say, upper management. So we talk to the upper management of ESS, while Chris deals with the project managers at ESS, and the engineers, and the technicians, and so on. We solve issues for him. I know that this word is not really great here, because
So
in
the
such...
stakeholders that you talk about at this place are higher ranked people.
Yes, and
organizations.
yes, and you're also there in the middle. So that's why the focus is stakeholder, because you're in the middle in between the portfolio, and you're the middle between, between project and portfolio. So you deal with several different kinds of stakeholders. It's not really a one-to-one translation, right? So this is the technical way of seeing that. But the focus there is managing the dependencies and the stakeholder, and also sometimes the resources, actually, which are also stakeholders. It's complex. And if you contradict me, please go ahead and say something. Any further questions? Everybody's happy. Good. Great. So I just want to finish with just one comment. The next steps we will have, so today we are having this introduction to project, program, and portfolio, and then we will go throughout this entire table that we have there, that we presented with these 49 points. And yes, a part it will be theory, but the biggest emphasis will be on how do you actually do it. And the focus a lot will be on planning, because it's the biggest part of the table. So I divided into planning 1, 2, and 3. And if you have any comments, questions that we can bring to the next talk that we will have, please do so. If you, I will keep also updates online here on this website. If you didn't register, please register so that you can also receive the slides or links for the videos and so on. In terms of literature, there are only 3 books that I put here right now, but there are many other, obviously. I would seriously advise anyone who wants to know about project management to read How Big Things Get Done. This is an amazing book where he compares several different kinds of big constructions and what failed, what went extremely right. And this is an eye-opener if you would like to learn more about it. The project management book that I use, so I have the many Prince 2 Axelos books. I have the PMBOK, and I also have this, Project Management Systems Approach to Planning, Scheduling, and Controlling. I love it. It's big, but I really like it. And this one is the old one. This one is the new version. And to prepare for this lecture, actually, I bought this book, the new version, because, well, this one is 11th edition. The new version is the 14th edition. So this was the only one that I actually bought the new version to really prepare for him. And if you're interested in leadership, I would seriously advise you to read a book called Multipliers. It is much more focused on leadership than on management, and this is a book that I like to follow. And finally, I would like to say that you can have scope, you can have costs, you can have schedule, you can have whatever you want, but a project does not work without people. So we have a lot of people involved in this project. I'm very grateful to all of them. I want to thank very much everyone that helped me throughout this last decade and helped me also with the presentation. And I would like to thank you for your attention. Thank you.